My name is Christine Hone Garcia, and I'm from Agoura Hills, California. Thank you for being an excellent teacher and imparting your wisdom to us throughout the years. What advice would you like to share today that you believe everyone needs to hear?
Well, too bad you didn't add, you added that what the rest of us would like to hear. I would say that if I had one piece of advice, I would try to, and you're lucky you live in this country because it's just to start with, because you've got opportunities here that wouldn't exist in much of the world. But I would like you to really sort of use Charlie's advice of thinking how you like your obituary to read, and then start selecting the educational paths, the social paths, whatever may fit your particular situation in terms of associating. And perhaps, certainly in my day, it would have been marrying the person that would best help you do that. Well, Charlie would say you are offering some similar benefit to the partner, and the opportunity in this country is basically limitless. When you think of going back not that many centuries, if you were going to be a shepherd or something like that, 100 years from now, your grandson was granddaughter was going to be a shepherd. I mean, nothing really happened. And what has happened in the last 200 years with the combination of the Industrial Revolution, whether it's science or education or health, or, you name it, we are so lucky to be born when we were, the people in this room, and many of us were lucky enough to be born in the United States as well, you're entering the best world that's ever existed, and you want to find the people to share it with and the activities to participate in that fit you. And if you get lucky, like Charlie and I did, you find things that interest you young. But if you don't find them right away, you keep looking. And I always tell students to take the job find the job that you would like to have if you didn't need a job. And sometimes you can find that very early, and sometimes you go through various experiences, but don't forget what you actually are trying to do. And there's no place to do it like this country. And find the person that you like to share your life with in many cases. And sometimes you get lucky and do that early. And sometimes you make mistakes. But I would try to, in a very, very general way, I would try to figure out how you'd want to look back on your life and think about yourself, and start today to go on the path that leads to that goal, and expect some difficulties along the way. But if you're thinking that way, you're more likely to get there.
So many hundreds of billions in Berkshire. I did not anticipate when Warren and I were starting with our little piddly start that we'd ever get to 100 billion, much less several hundred billion. It was an amazing occurrence.
What happened that you didn't anticipate? What led to that success?
Well, we got a little less crazy than most people, and a little less stupid than most people, and that really helped us. Then in addition, we were given as much longer time to run than most people because something kept us alive into our 90s. And that gave us a long track from our little fiddling start all the way to the 90s. Those are the two things that really happened. And of course, we wised up over time. we got into better and better companies, and we understood more and more of the bad things that could happen to you and how easy they could creep in. And we avoided them even more assiduously when we were old than we did when we were young. And it all worked.
Good afternoon, Mr. Buffett, Mr. Munger. My name is JC. I'm 15 years old, and I'm from Ohio. This is my 4th in-person Berkshire meeting. I have a lot of passion learning from your speeches, interviews, and articles. Thank you for sharing your wisdom all the time. Mr. Buffett, in your annual shareholder letter this year, you said that Berkshire's journey consisted of continuous savings, the power of compounding, the American tailwind, and avoidance of major mistakes. You have humbly admitted in the past that you have made many mistakes, but this is the first time that major mistakes stood out to me. Could you please advise us on what major mistakes we should avoid in both investing and in life? I would also like to have Mr. Munger's thoughts too, please. Thank you very much.
Well, Charlie said the major mistake you can make, then you're lucky if you're in the United States. If you go around the world, you don't have a lot of choices in some places, but you should write your obituary and then try and figure out how to live up to it. That's something you get wiser on as you go along. The business mistakes, you just want to make sure you don't make any mistakes that take you out of the game or come close to taking you out of your game. You should never have a night when you're worried about investing. I mean, assuming you have any money to invest at all, and you should spend a little bit less than you earn, and you can spend a little bit more than you earn, and then you've got debt, and the chances are you'll never get out of debt. I'll make an exception in terms of a mortgage on your house, but credit card debt, we're in the credit card business big time, and the world will stay in the credit card business. But why get behind the game? And if you're effectively paying 12 or 14 or whatever percent you're paying on a credit card, you're saying I'm going to earn more than 12 or 14% on money. And if you can do that, come to Berkshire Hathaway. So it's I hate to say this when Charlie's around me, but it's straight out of Ben Franklin. I mean, and it's not that complicated, but I'll give you a couple lessons. Tom Murphy, the first time I met him, said 2 things to me. He said, you can always tell someone to go to hell tomorrow. Well, that was great advice then, and think of what great advice it is when you sit down at a computer and screw your life up forever by telling somebody to go to hell or something else in 30 seconds and you can't erase it. You haven't lost the option. And he said, praise by name, criticize by category. Well, what makes more sense than that? I mean, who do you like that criticizes you all the time? And you don't need to vilify anybody to make your point on subjects of discussion. And then I'll give you another general piece of advice. I've never known anybody that was basically kind that died without friends. And I've known plenty of people with money that have died without friends, including their family. But I've never known anybody. I've seen a few people, including Tom Murphy Sr., and maybe Junior, who's here, but certainly his dad. I never saw him. I watched him for 50 years. I never saw him do an unkind act. I didn't see him do very many stupid acts either. I mean, it wasn't that he was non-discriminating. He just decided that there was no reason to do it. And wow, what a difference that makes in life. Charlie?
Well, it's so simple to spend less than you earn and invest shrewdly and avoid toxic people and toxic activities and try and keep learning all your life, et cetera, and do a lot of deferred gratification because you prefer life that way. And if you do all those things, you are almost certain to succeed. And if you don't, you're going to need a lot of luck, a lot of luck. And you don't want to need a lot of luck. You want to go into a game where you're very likely to win without having any unusual luck.
I'd add one more thought, too. You need to know how people can manipulate other people, and then you need to resist the temptation to do it yourself.
Oh, yes, the toxic people who are trying to fool you or lie to you, who aren't reliable in meeting their commitments. The great lesson of life is get them the hell out of your life.
Yeah.
And do it fast. Do it fast.
And I would add, Charlie would totally agree with me, do it tactfully if possible, too. But do get them out of your life.
Yes. Yeah, I don't mind a little tact. Or even a little financial cost. But the question is getting them the hell out of the life.
Charlie, people probably look at you and think you're incredibly wealthy. You've had all these great opportunities and things that have happened in your life, but you've struggled too.
Of course, everybody struggles. The iron rule of life is everybody struggles.
I try and think back of what the toughest moments might have been and how you got through some of those. And I mean,
well, we all know how to get through them. The great philosophers of realism are also the great philosophers of what I call soldiering through. If you soldier through, you can get through almost anything. And it's your only option. You can't bring back the dead. You can't cure the dying child. You can't do all kinds of things. You have to soldier through, and you just somehow you soldier through. If you have to walk through the streets crying for a few hours a day as part of soldiering through, go ahead and cry away, but you have to. You can't quit. You can cry all right, but you can't quit.
you've had time in your life when you've done that?
Sure. I cried all the time when my first child died, but I knew I couldn't change the fate.
Charlie, Warren Buffett told me that a long, long time ago. You told him he should live his life. He should write his obituary the way he wants it written and then live his life accordingly.
Yeah, sure.
I assume you've done the same thing for yourself.
Well, no, I've written my obituary the way I've lived my life, and if people want to pay attention to it, it's all right with me. And if they want to ignore it, that's okay with me, too. I'll be dead, but what difference will it make? And so, but I think it's not a bad idea.
Is the plan for your life, the obituary you would write in your 30s, the same you would write today?
Sure. I basically believe in the soldier-on system. Mm-hmm. Lots of hardship will come, and you gotta handle it well by soldiering through. And a few rare opportunities will come. You gotta learn how to recognize them when they come, and not make too minor a trip to the pie counter when the opportunity is available. And those are simple lessons.